With an AEW star accused of racism and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Recalling how he nearly signed with TNA, Jim Ross said this on his Grilling JR podcast. "I was staying in Norman, Oklahoma, and Dixie Carter's family has a beautiful ranch in North Texas. They flew to Norman and picked me up. It was a 20-minute flight in a little jet, and I met the whole family down there. I was interested, and I would have taken the job, but I had to have my terms. And my terms were I need to run it the promotion. I used the old Bill Parcells line, if you want me to cook dinner, you've got to let me buy some groceries. So I wanted to have control over the talent, totally. Because some guys had to go, they were killing the budget. So she didn't pull the trigger. And I've seen Dixie many times since then. We get along fine. I like her. But if she wanted to change the course of TNA, there was a chance. She didn't have the conviction to step away from a lot of her incumbents because they had built a little power struggle. It was pro wrestling. The con men had taken over, and sometimes she didn't see it." During AEW Dynamite this week, Saraya could be seen making a crude gesture at a young fan. Here's the clip. Reviewing LA Knight's confrontation with Hit Row on SmackDown, Jim Cornette gave a suggestion to LA Knight to prove how over he is in WWE, saying this on his drive-thru podcast. "I think he should come out, bend over, and fart into the microphone and let the people give him a standing ovation just to prove he can do it. No, I'm serious. He would just come out and said, If he just come out and said, 'Let me talk to you, I want to prove a point,' and bend over and fart into the microphone, I guarantee you the place will blow. He would fart into the microphone and the people would blow and give him a standing ovation, and he would point 3 times, 'LA Knight, yeah,' and he'd leave." Explaining briefly why he departed All Elite Wrestling, Cody Rhodes said this during his WWE documentary. "I left AEW because of a personal issue, that's it. But the byproduct of leaving AEW is the opportunity to go for the biggest dream I ever had, and the first dream I had in my life." Going into details on this situation, it was said in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, as expected, because of the agreement made with Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan when he left, there were no real details about why he left AEW in the WWE produced documentary that came out on the 31st. That's actually the furthest he said about it, although he's many times said about rumors that involved the Young Bucks that they had nothing to do with it. There's no arguing it ended up being the right career move for him, and one of the best moves WWE has made because he's a major part of their business turnaround along with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn, Paul Levesque taking over the bulk of the work as head of creative, and a lot of other things that were part of that groundswell. Levesque eventually said that Rhodes left because he didn't want to be the champion of a secondary promotion. On Twitter, Adam Cole said this after being booked for the AEW All-In event, writing, "9 months ago, I was terrified that I may never be able to wrestle again. Now, me and one of my best friends go toe-to-toe for the most precious prize in our sport, at one of the biggest professional wrestling shows of all time. Proud." As he took part in a brutal ladder match on AEW Dynamite, this was said about Buddy Matthews in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. No word on Buddy Matthews. In his ladder match with Andrade, his shoulder went out. It looked like a shoulder that popped out of its socket, and on the air, it was clear that Doc Sampson was pulling it on hard, trying to put it back in its socket. It was the same thing that happened when Aaron Pico's shoulder went out months back in an MMA fight, and his corner tried to get it back in. Unlike in that case when it didn't work, here it did, as Matthews, who at one point seemed to not be able to control his shoulder, was able to work the rest of the match, and if he was in pain or limited, it wasn't obvious after Sampson was done. Former AEW Women's Champion Jamie Hayter has been out of action since Double or Nothing in May due to injury, as this was said regarding her comeback to the promotion in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The current estimated return time for Jamie Hayter is February due to various injuries, although that's at best a rough estimate. Staying on the topic of returns from injury, this was said regarding Bryan Danielson's comeback after he fractured his forearm at Forbidden Door. Bryan Danielson got his surgery for his broken arm on July 3rd, and at the time was told 3 months before he could return, although it's possible he could beat that by a week or two. All In and All Out are out. Wrestle Grand Slam doesn't look good, but I don't want to say impossible, but he should be back in October. With all 4 members of the Elite re-signing with AEW recently, this was said in the Wrestling Observer newsletter regarding their tensions with CM Punk. Even with the signing, there do remain significant behind-the-scenes issues that haven't been settled between them and CM Punk, which keeps Khan having to do a balancing act. It's been rumored that Ronda Rousey will be leaving WWE sometime following SummerSlam, with the Wrestling Observer newsletter adding that it's not confirmed whether this is Rousey's last match in WWE for the time being, but her departure is coming relatively soon since they had to rush the turn angle. Speaking of Rousey, this was said about her MMA rules match at SummerSlam against Shayna Baszler, as the Wrestling Observer pointed out that we do know the reason nothing was announced is because they hadn't settled on exactly what MMA rules means. Touching on what could have happened had Kenny Omega signed with WWE instead of re-signing with AEW, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that one person with knowledge of WWE's interest has noted to us that while Omega was top talent who would have been used as a top guy, in the mix with the likes of Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Brock Lesnar level guys, that because of long-term physical durability that they believed Rollins as the role of the best in-ring wrestler in the company and more time in that role than Omega would have. It would be added that, as noted, WWE had significant interest in Omega, whose deal time frame had expired on February 1st, but his time frame was extended due to his taking 9 months off via injury. The other 3 months were under contract until the end of 2023, so WWE wouldn't have been able to pitch for them for many months. No formal offers could have been legally made for months, but Omega was number 1 on the company's most wanted list. All 4 would have been in a great position in an open market, so Khan must have made a strong deal to get them to stay without even strongly playing the WWE card. The Young Bucks, Page, and Omega were repped by Barry Bloom in their negotiations, who has also in the past been the agent of Paul Levesque and is the current agent of Chris Jericho, Bill Goldberg, and others. Taking to Twitter, former AEW star Lufisto would claim that those in the women's locker room were being sent home, writing, had a 1-hour phone call with a current AEW talent. The women who actually addressed the problems I did today were the ones sent home by Tony Khan. There was a meeting to shoot on Thunder Rosa that Khan attended. Before leaving, he reminded them that their segments were the lowest. When some girls arranged a meeting to talk about Baker's crew, one of them ran to Britt to let her know. The girls that wanted to address the problem were the ones punished. Things didn't get better, they got worse. The legitimate wrestlers believe Tony doesn't give a damn about women's wrestling and feel like they are going back to the Divas era. Ask me who the F am I? Tell me I'm irrelevant and that I'm doing this for attention. Call me a liar. Tell me to kill myself. You keep on closing your eyes and supporting human beings with behavior. With the messages of support and especially this phone call I received from AEW employees, this nobody did the right thing. Telling Fightful about her experience in AEW, Lufisto clarified who called her a effin' French Canadian a-hole, saying, "I go to the restroom. As I open the door, I hear she's something. I open the door and on the table, Ruby Soho is sitting with Dustin Rhodes and they just shut up and they look at me. Okay, they were talking about me, that's for sure. Ruby is like, I have to go. I go to Dustin and he goes, so, all French Canadian people are effing a-holes, huh? I'm like, excuse me, what? He was nice to me 5 minutes ago. He's like, yeah, apparently that's the way it goes. I have a very bad relationship with Jacques Rougeau. I can say he was even abusive to me, calling me to tell me I was fat and to lose weight. I'm like, maybe he had a bad experience with Jacques too? He's looking at me differently, and the funny thing is, Evil Uno walks by and he's like, hey, Uno, that's true, French Canadians are effing a-holes, right? Uno is like, I'm French Canadian. Oh, okay. They talk a little bit, I'm there, but I just leave. I'm like, what the F just happened? I love Dustin. I even wrote him messages, thanking him for the keep stepping thing because it was very inspiring. I'm like, what the F just happened? Dustin Rhodes would reply online to this writing, hey Lufisto, read your story, and sometimes as a coach I have to be very honest and won't ever tell you a lie about how good or bad it was. Sometimes hard love comes out and wouldn't have it any other way. Hope you find what you're looking for. Hashtag keep steppin'. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.